In 1919, in the capital city of Canada's province, Manitoba, the largest strike in Canadian history took place. 30,000 strikers, 17% of the city's population, took to the streets to protest. One must wonder, what on earth could cause 17% of the third largest city in the country to strike? Many factors are to blame for the strike, most of them relating to the prevailing social inequalities and the impoverished condition of the city's working class. Wages were low, prices were rising, employment was unstable, immigrants faced discrimination, housing and health conditions were poor. In addition, there was resentment of the enormous profits enjoyed by employers during the war. Many workers were also influenced by socialist ideas voiced by local reformers, radicals, and revolutionaries. These attracted greater interest, especially among the large population of immigrants from Eastern Europe after the Russian Revolution of 1917. A meeting of Western labor delegates in Calgary in March 1919 adopted numerous radical resolutions, including support for a 5-day week and a 6-hour day. With these radicals ready to strike, the Winnipeg General Strike was about to shake the nation. At 11 o'clock in the morning, on Thursday, the 15th of May, 1919, virtually the entire working population of Winnipeg went on strike. Somewhere around 30,000 workers in the public and private sectors walked off their jobs, and the city experienced a sudden cessation of many normal activities. The strike committee requested the police force, who had voted in favor of the strike, to remain on duty. Workers at the city waterworks also remained on the job to provide service at reduced pressure. Union membership had increased substantially during the spring of 1919, but most of the people who came out in support of the general strike were not union members. For instance, the first to leave work at 7 o'clock in the morning were the telephone operators, the so-called hello girls at the city telephone exchanges, who were not at this time union members. To ensure that strikers were kept informed of developments, the strike committee also published a daily strike bulletin. This newspaper urged the strikers to remain peaceable as well as idle. Quote, "The only thing the workers have to do to win this strike is to do nothing. Just eat, sleep, play, love, laugh, and look at the sun. Our fight consists of doing no fighting." Women leaders played an important part in the strike. They encouraged female workers to go on strike, encouraged strikers in their strike efforts, and built solidarity amongst strikers. Helen Armstrong was one of the women on the strike committee. She encouraged young working women to join the strike and often spoke on street corners and at public meetings, and was arrested multiple times. The Women's Labor League raised money to help women workers pay rent. Women also set up a kitchen where hundreds of meals were served every day. On the 12th of June, a Ladies' Day was held at Victoria Park, where women occupied seats of honor to hear a speech by influential labor leader J.S. Wordsworth, promoting the emancipation of women and need for the equality of the genders. In a city divided by class lines, opposition to the strike was led by a group of local businessmen and professionals who described themselves as the Citizens Committee of 1,000. From their headquarters in the Board of Trade building, they encouraged employers not to give in to the strikers and attempted to stir up resentment of alien immigrants, who they charged were the principal leaders of the strike. They also put pressure on the governments to take action against the strike. They published a newspaper, the Winnipeg Citizen, that claimed the so-called general strike is in reality a revolution, or a daring attempt to overthrow the present industrial and governmental system. At the end of the first week of the strike, 2 federal cabinet ministers arrived in Winnipeg to assess the situation. Acting Minister of Justice and eventual Prime Minister Arthur Meehan, and Minister of Labor Gideon Robertson. because Prime Minister Robert Borden was nowhere to be seen. The aforementioned two refused to meet with the strike committee, but consulted with the Citizens Committee, who greatly influenced their conclusions. Meehan issued a statement that the strike was a cloak for something far deeper, an effort to overturn the proper authority. Robertson reported back to Ottawa that the motive behind this strike is undoubtedly was the overthrow of constitutional government. They warned striking postal workers who were federal employees to return to work or lose their jobs. At this time, they also authorized the local government to use the armed forces and the Royal Northwest Mounted Police as needed. In preparation for arrests at the beginning of June, and on the advice of one of the leaders of the Citizens Committee, A.J. Andrews, the federal government amended the Immigration Act to allow for the deportation without trial of any British citizens not born in Canada who were charged with seditious activity. The municipal government also took action, as large numbers of veterans were holding marches in the streets in support of the strike. On the 5th of June, Mayor Charles F. Gray announced a ban on public demonstrations. On the 9th of June, the city also dismissed almost the entire police force for refusing to sign a pledge promising to neither belong to a union nor participate in any sympathetic strike. With the assistance of the Citizens Committee, the city police were replaced with a large body of untrained but better paid special constables who patrolled the streets with clubs. Within hours, one of the special constables, a much-medaled World War I veteran, Frederick Coppins, charged into a gathering of strikes and was dragged off his horse and severely pummeled. This led to claims that he was attacked by enemy ruffians. Several other foreign-born socialists, including Sam Bluxenberg, Man Charntoff, and Solomon Almazoff, were also arrested. The climax of the strike came a few days later, on Saturday, the 21st of June, which was soon known as Bloody Saturday. To protest against the arrest of the strike leaders, the returned soldiers had announced a demonstration in the form of a silent parade on Main Street for Saturday afternoon. Crowds assembled in the thousands in the streets around City Hall. When the soldiers refused to call off the demonstration, Mayor Gray requested assistance from the RNWMP, who entered in the crowds on horseback, wielding clubs in an attempt to disperse the assembly. A streetcar operated by a strike beater attempted to travel south on Main Street towards Portage Avenue, but was stopped and tipped off the tracks and briefly set on fire. After the mayor read the riot act, the Mounties entered the fray again, this time discharging their .45 revolvers in 3 separate volleys. About 120 shots were fired. One man, Mike Sokolovsky, was killed on the spot. Another, Steve Shezherbaunovich, died later from his wounds. Hospitals reported about 30 injuries, mainly from police gunfire. Friends and family tended others with injuries. The crowds were chased into side streets and broken up. The specials arrested some 80 people, and military patrols took over the downtown area. These events broke the confidence of the strike committee. On the 25th of June, they announced the end of the strike for 11 o'clock a.m. the next day. After 6 weeks, the strikers drifted back to their jobs. Many were blacklisted or otherwise punished for participating in the strike. In May and June 1919, general strikes broke out in as many as 30 other cities, all the way from Amherst, Nova Scotia, to Victoria, British Columbia. Some of these strikes were protests against local conditions. Some were in solidarity with the Winnipeg strikes. Some arose from both causes. After the strike, many leaders, especially those of foreign backgrounds, were sent back by deportation on direct orders of the Prime Minister of Canada. However, 2 of the most influential men in the strike, J.S. Wordsworth and A.A. Heaps were elected to the Federal House of Commons. Wordsworth as the leader of the Federal Canadian Labour Party, the predecessor to the New Democratic Party. Ironically, the New Democratic Party is the party currently in power in Manitoba, with Prime Minister Borden's Conservatives in second.